So let us move ahead with the next lab of MVC, or I'll say lab number 2, routing. So what exactly is routing? If I put in one simple words, routing simplifies your MVC URL. Again, I will repeat. Routing simplifies your MVC URL. Now, what do I mean by URL simplification? Now, if you see developers, right, sometimes developers have a coding standard, naming standards, I'll say. For example, for class names, I have seen developers writing CLS home, right? CLS, they put the word CLS before the class. I've seen some of the developers, putting names of subroutines like sub, function, right? So if you have such kind of a naming convention, which is more technical, then it is very difficult for the end user to write something like this. If you see the current code, the end user has to say CLS home / sub go to home. Now that is definitely not user friendly, right? And specifically when the end users are non-technical persons, for them it is very difficult to write such kind of URLs. And that's where exactly routing helps us. Routing helps us to create user-friendly URLs, and those URLs you can map with your technical controller names and action names. So for example, if you see currently, the way the URL is home / go to home. Now let's say you want to make your end user's life easy. You want to say that okay, he can just type the site name, whatever it is, localhost 1248 / home, and done. He does not have to type go to home, right? So in order to do that, what you can do is you can go to your Solution Explorer. So go to your Solution Explorer and go to the app_start folder. So you can see here there is an app_start folder, and in that we have a file called as routeconfig.cs file. Double click on it. Let me go and zoom this code here. You can see that we have something called as a routes collection here, and that's what is routing at the end of the day. Routing is nothing but it is a collection which maps the user-friendly URLs with the controller names and method names. So for example, you can see here this map route method. First thing, if I move my mouse, you can see it's a route collection. Again, I'm going to halt for 1 or 2 seconds. You can see here routes is a collection. The name is route collection. Okay, so this routes is nothing but it's a type of route collection. It has a method called as map route, and this map route has 3 important things. First one is the key name. Every collection has a key name, right? Key 1, key 2. So you can see by default there is a default key what he has added, and he says that if the URL structure is like this, controller / action and the value, then go and invoke the home controller and go and invoke the action index inside it. So what I'll do is I'm going to go and add one more route here. So I'm going to say here Control C. I'm going to take this thing. I'll say Control V, and I will say this route is for the home. So I'll say home. And when anyone goes and types like this, so when anyone goes and says just home, please go and invoke the home controller and invoke this action, go to home, right? So I have created a simple home route here. I've named it as home. If somebody types this URL, if somebody says the site name / home, it will go and invoke the home / go to home. In the same way, let me go and again create some more user-friendly structures here. For example, let's say this is again one more version of home. So if somebody says home / home, he will still go to home / go to home. So you can see here now, I have created some user-friendly URLs. One is if he just types home, he will go to home. If he types home / home, then also he will go to home. Let me go and type one more user-friendly URL here. Let's say I will say something like this. I will say if he does not type anything, in other words, if he just goes to the site, then also he will go to home. So you can see now how I can define user-friendly URLs and map it to my controller name and action name. So if you see here now, we have 3 variations of the URL. One is home / home, and one is without anything. It just goes to the site and the home page opens, right? So if I do a Control F5 now very quickly, you can see that it has ran the site, but it is saying me that this home one is already in use. Remember I said, right, this name is a key, and key in a collection has to be unique. So you can see here I have said here home 1, and again I have said home 1. So let's name this as home 2. Okay, let me build this, build solution, Let me go here and let me do a reload. So there it is. Now you can see, as I've said, for home 2, in home 2 I've said that if he does not put anything, he should show me the he should show me this page, right, the home page, and you can see it has shown, right. Now if I say here, okay, what if he just puts home? Yes, it will still show me the home page. What if he puts here home/home? Yes, then also it shows me the same home page. So routing is nothing but it is creating user-friendly URLs and mapping those user-friendly URLs to your controllers and actions. Now I would like to talk about two important points regarding routing. If you remember, when we opened the route config.cs, this code was already present. What this code says, this code is nothing but it's an entry which is made inside the routes collection, where it says that by default you should invoke by the controller name and by the action name. So the first thing is, don't remove this code, because in case, let's say, if any of your structure does not map any kind of controller and action, it will try to invoke this key from here and it will try to go and fetch the controller name and action name. So in case none of your URLs match, it will try to go and find from this last routes collection. Okay, so do not remove this code. That's the first thing. And second thing is, never make this code as the start code. If you do this, what will happen is, by default, this route will always get invoked and all the other routes will get bypassed. For example, if you see now, let me go and build the project. If you see, for now, if I'm going to say here enter, you will see that he says I don't find anything. For example, you can see now I've entered, he says I don't know what is happening, right? If you see here home again, nothing is happening. So until you don't type the exact controller name and action name, you can see the page is not coming. Now you can see here I have typed the controller name and action name, and because that is the first thing in this collection here, he gets invoked and he shows the page. So in other words, what is happening is all the other routes keys here are getting bypassed. So remember that this code, this controller and action format, should be your last key in the collection and not the first one. Now the routes.map route, the map route function actually goes and adds the route inside a collection. In the same way, there is one more function here which is very important, called as ignore route. Sometimes we do not want people to go and access XML files, config files, AXD files, right? So we don't want people to say, okay, http localhost / web.config and download it, right? So what you can do is you can go and say here, okay, ignore this route, and you can see here there's one ignore route which is written. It says that any kind of resource, whatever is the resource name, if anybody types here .axd, do not allow him to invoke, do not allow him to go and invoke that resource, or do not allow him to send that request to that resource. So you can see here, I can go and add one more route here saying ignore route, anything with the name config. So in this way, in case if he ever goes, actually config files cannot be downloaded, so that is one part. But in case even if he tries saying, okay, http localhost / web.config, it will not work. So again, this method is very important in case you want to go and ignore some of the files or some of the routes, where you say that, okay, people cannot type this route, then you can use this as well. So map route to add a route, and ignore route to ignore any kind of routes, which you do not want the end users to invoke. Now, as a best practice, I have seen that a lot of people, what they do is, rather than writing this mapping inside the code here, they actually go and create a table, a table with must be simple 2 or 3 fields, which has the key name, which has the URL structure, and also it has which controller and action to map. And what they do is, they go and use ADO.NET or Entity Framework, and they go and loop through all the records of the table and add it into this collection, routes collection, by using the map route. So I've seen that a lot of people, where they have a lot of URLs and they want to map those URLs to controllers and actions, they go and create a simple table so that they can configure that table later on, rather than going and configuring inside the code here itself. And one of the questions which keeps coming now and then when I take a MVC class is that how we can set the start page in MVC. Means I'm sure that people who have worked with old web forms, you have a habit of right clicking on a page name, like let's say home.aspx or index.aspx. So you can right click and say set it as a start page. But remember that the first thing is, in MVC there is no start page. Why? Because the first hit never comes to the page, never comes to the view. right? So that's the first part. The second part is, if you want to go and set any kind of a start page, you have to actually set the start controller and the action. That's what you have to set, right? So in case you want to do that, what you can do is, you can see here, already I have answered it in this routing section. So here you can see I have created a URL with nothing, and I'm mapping it with home and go to home. So what happens is, by default, whatever view this go to home invokes becomes my default view. In other words, if you see here, when I do a control F5, that is without any URL structure here, just the site name, it goes and it invokes this home/go to home, and that invokes our view go to home.aspx. So if you see here, this has become the start page. So in case you want to set the start page, what you have to do is, you have to go and make your URL structure empty, and then map the appropriate controller name and action name, which will invoke the your home view or index view, whatever it is. Now, one very important point regarding routing. When I started this routing lab 2, right, I said that routing helps you to simplify URLs, and with that, end users will benefit. Actually, that's a very half truth, or I'll say it is not even a truth actually. Why? Because end users will not type like www.questpond.com/home or www.questpond.com/home/about us, right? End users will come to questpond.com, and from there they will click on hyperlinks and they will go wherever they want to go. So end users really don't type URLs on the site name, right? But by simplifying URLs, the biggest benefit you get is search engine optimization, that is SEO. For instance, let's say that you have a simple page which has computers inside it. Okay, you have written something about computers. So if your URL has the word computers inside it, then the search engine will try to give more ranking to it. Why? Because the URLs, the metadata, and also your page content is matching. So in the same way, let's say you have computers, and on that you want to also say, okay, /laptop. Right? So you can again go and create one more URL structure saying, okay, /laptop will go to the same page, /computer will go to the same page. So basically, when the search engine looks at your URL, and when it looks at your content, if they are matching, then the relevance becomes higher for your page. So the biggest benefit of routing is that basically it helps you to achieve greater search engine optimization. So I hope that you have enjoyed this video. In this video, we were trying to understand routing. So great, so we have completed approximately 30 minutes of the tutorial, and you can see, like, in this 10 minutes, I've just explained you routing. So how easy MVC is, right? So we're going to move faster, we're going to move quicker, but stay with me, don't lose hope. You have to keep continuing seeing this video and ensure that you complete your 16 hours of training. So we are done with 30 minutes till now, and pending is 15 hours and 30 minutes. Keep moving, keep rocking. Let's learn MVC in 2 days. That is 16 hours. Thank you so much.